In this demonstration, now that you know how to create an Azure AD tenant, it often makes sense to then know how do I create users and groups in that tenant. So we'll head over to the Azure portal to get started. And in the portal, let's head straight over to Azure Active Directory. So we'll click that. If you don't have it in favorites, again, just click All Services and type Azure Active Directory and it will come up for you. And you can see we're in azexamdemo.onmicrosoft.com, the short name being azexam. Now I can go ahead on the left-hand side and click Users, and this is where I create new users in my directory, and I can see the users that are already in there. So I can go ahead and click New User, and let's call this one John Smith. Very unique, I know. And that can be J Smith at. Now, this is important. If you just do azexam.onmicrosoft.com, you'll notice it won't actually work. It'll give us a little error. And that's because if we again go back to the directory, you'll see it's azexamdemo.onmicrosoft.com is the full name for that specific tenant. So if we just add demo to that, we will then get the green check and everything is good to proceed. For profile, this is just work data, first name, last name, job title, department, etc. Properties you won't need to go into. That's just around the source of authority. So in this case, Azure Active Directory, nothing you need to configure there. And groups we'll come back to after we've created the specific user here. And this is important, the directory role. So what role do we want to give them inside of Azure Active Directory? They can be a user, or they could be a global administrator or limited administrator. And you can learn more about directory roles, by clicking the link right here, and that'll get you some more information on the different role types available to you. Then we go ahead and you can look at the password if you're just trying to give it to somebody that's, say, right next to you, or if you're going to email it off, but you can see it there and you can copy it and paste it out to give to that person. They will be prompted to change it after logging in for the first time. But you click create and that goes ahead and creates that user, and then we see John Smith, is there and, ready and available. If I refresh now as well, you'll see the source isn't updated straight away. If I go back into users now, John Smith, you can see the source is Azure Active Directory. And you also see that some other sources can be like a Microsoft account. In fact, if I do a new guest user, I can give an email address here. And I can also say invite somebody, perhaps my Gmail, so nickcollier@gmail.com. Come join my AD tenant. And that will actually send an invitation out to me personally at my email address and allow me to log in as a guest user as well. And you'll see that user type then appears as a guest. But that's it for users specifically there. That's how we create them. If we go back to the AZ Exam tenant and click groups now, this is where I can go ahead and start to create groups of users. So perhaps I want to create a Azure Administrator group. I'm going to create a security group. I'm not going to create an Office 365 group. This is for security access to Azure AD. I'll call this my Azure Admins team, or the Azure Admins as an example. And then I can go ahead and say this is assigned, click the members, and basically you'll see them all listed here along with other service accounts that are there as well. I can simply type in John and you'll see John Smith is there. Click that name, click select, click create, and that's going to go ahead and create that group and include John Smith already in there. Well, how do I actually assign permissions to that person? Well, that's all done using RBAC, as you might have seen already if you jump to that section. So we can go back to, say, our Azure subscription. If I click it down here, go in and select the Visual Studio Enterprise subscription I have, click Access Control, and then go ahead and add a role assignment. So this is where I assign rights and scope them to specific objects again. So I can scroll through here and I can choose the Azure Admins team, or I could still choose John Smith directly if I wanted to. But let's say I just want to assign it to the group. This way, every time I want to give somebody access, let's say this could be subscription owner access. So click the role. I would choose owner. This is, complete rights to the subscription. I'm assigning it to that group, and anybody I put in that group will be given access to the subscription. So certainly something You wouldn't want to just give out, randomly to people. The subscription rights are obviously very, very important. But you also saw from resource groups, you can assign rights specifically at a resource group. You might want to group people by department. You might want to group them by, geography. You might want to group them, by their business division. All sorts of things that you can basically do to, carve out the rights and roles that make the most sense for your organization. And with that, that concludes this demonstration and hopefully gives you an insight into how you create users and groups into Azure AD.